With everything happening with COVID-19, we realized that according to reports that abuse had doubled because I guess more people were at home and they're closer to the abuser. So we're seeing that abuse is being perpetrated more. But we know that abuse is not something that, is specific to this particular pandemic. It's something that has been going on for a very long time in our society. And we said, we wanted to talk about that with you guys. Sometimes we find that the people that hurt us the most are the people that we actually, love. So this session aims to be helpful for people who are, hoping to start a relationship, somebody who is in a relationship or marriage, or someone who is hoping to leave a toxic relationship. So abuse can be in many forms. So it can be physical, we mentioned that on our poll. It can be emotional, it can be sexual, it can be financial. A person is trying to use money, to bring you down. And it could be
sounds
cultural.
like a lot of Nigerian men.
Oh, girl. Anyway, that's topic for another day. But yeah, so cultural, like for example, I'm Yoruba and say, I'm dating an Igbo guy and then he uses it against me or I use it against him. So that could be, abusive. However, based on the poll, we saw that because the poll was what's worse, physical abuse or emotional abuse. And then, we saw that most people were saying emotional abuse. So that took the lead. So we decided today that we're going to focus on emotionally abusive relationships. Should you stay or should you go? Now, the thing is, according to statistics, we find that more women are emotionally abused than men. So we're also going to be focusing on women being emotionally abused today. Now, Viva and I have decided to structure the live in a way that basically we also asked questions to our followers. We said to you guys that, okay, if there's anything you want us to talk about on this live, we would basically... Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. So if there's anything that you wanted us to talk about on this live, that you should send us,
write your questions.
Exactly. So we structured the live in a way where, for example, the questions could be like what is emotional abuse, the symptoms and the signs, getting to the roots of emotional abuse. Can an abuser change? i.e. stopping abuse. And finally, and I'm sure you guys want to stay for this, is the emotional abuse test.
So that test is basically going to help you guys find out if you are in a toxic relationship or not. So stick around. Thank you, Toma. Okay. So basically, the way we're taking this session is we're going to focus on questions we've gotten so far. Questions we've gotten so far, and we'll use the questions to pretty much answer or basically teach this class. So I got a question from an anonymous person, no names mentioned here, and she says, hi Vivian, I love my boyfriend, but my family friends keep saying he has been emotionally abusing me. But to me, sometimes he's happy, sometimes he's sad. So I don't really get it. What exactly are the signs and symptoms of an emotional abuser? So first of all, I think we should define what emotional abuse is. So psychological abuse, also known as emotional abuse, is a form of abuse characterized by a person subjecting or exposing another person to a behavior that may result in psychological trauma, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, that's PTSD. So basically when you see a person who's always anxious, every little thing gets them really nervous and stuff, most times it's an outcome of being in an abusive relationship. But let's talk about what emotional abuse is not, right? So any relationship is not being emotionally abusive. If it's not working for you, it's not working for you. You have the decision, you have the free will to be I'm out, and that's fine. That is not emotional abuse. Expressing your opinions, that is not emotional abuse. Maybe sometimes getting hurt by what a partner says or not, that is not emotional abuse. You're human, that is just totally normal. Yeah. So Adrenica, do you want to add?
Also for the person who asked the question, she wanted to... Hi, Deborah. So she wanted to basically understand, emotional abuse a bit much better. I think if you look at yourself, because Viv is also going to cover the signs, like ask yourself, okay, have I been behaving the same way I behaved when I first met this guy? So for example, we find that a lot of people that are emotionally abused, they change their behavior. They also withdraw from their friends. And then, anything else that they usually did, maybe there was like, a pastime that they enjoyed, or their business they were involved in, and they gradually just move away from that. So ask yourself, are you feeling timid? Are you moving away from things that you normally enjoy doing? And then also you find that you're very angry and hostile and bitter. Apparently psychologists say this, people that are emotionally abused, they're pretty much the Debbie Downers in their friendship group. So for example, let's say everybody's talking about the next phase in life, their careers and all of that, and then you're just like, oh, who has time for that? You just you just bring the vibe down. So basically, if you find that you have a lot of negative emotions, negative perspectives on life, know that there's something definitely wrong and it's worth checking. And at the very worst, I mean, I'm sure you haven't gotten to that stage, but some people self-harm because the emotional abuse is so much that they actually have to resort to physical pain on their own behalf.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about, now we're talking about what emotional abuse is not. So now let's talk about what emotional abuse is. So emotional abuse is very like broad, but we decided to like break it down into 4 characteristics, being control, manipulation, blaming, and threats. So control, for instance, like if you have a partner, your best friend, whoever, and that partner is always like, why are you always going out? Is it every time you have to go out? Like, and you see that as a pattern. Like, it's not like, oh, he just does it once, or she just does it like, okay, we're focusing on women here, but like he just does it like once or twice. But you see that every time you want to go out, so you want to like leave him for some time, that's when he's like sick. He'll start saying, oh, I'm sick, or he'll hide your phone, or he'll use that opportunity to start an argument with you or whatever. You need to really like look into that. Another one, this is like very, very common amongst the abusive men, is manipulation, gaslighting, mind games.
Manipulation is an
That
abuser's
best friend.
best friend.
Best friend. Like,
Best friend.
they would make you feel like, when it gets to the extent that you start thinking like, yo, like, is something wrong with me? Like, literally, like, manipulation. That's like when you see that is a pattern where like every single time, like, it could be done nicely, it could be done like, they may make you look like, oh, they're doing these things because they care about you, they're looking out for you, but the impact of like someone who has manipulated makes you like basically lose all confidence in yourself, because you're always doubting, you're always second guessing, you're always thinking, oh my god, like, what's this, am I wrong? Another one, the third point we'll focus on, is blames, where every single thing is your fault. Maybe the light switch went off, is the way you clicked on it, something like they're like, you've done it again. Oh, hi everyone. Hi, Flo. Like, it's your fault, everything is your fault. Beware, because if someone always makes you feel like you are the reason why everything is a failure, you're the reason why, you need to be very careful. You need to be very, very careful. And then the last one would be threats, where anytime you do anything wrong, they're like, I'm going to leave you. If you do that again, I'm going to leave you. If you do that again, I'm going to leave you. Every single thing is like, this is why I should not even be with you. Like, basically making you feel like you need to hold on to them. I think it's basically them getting through and like breaking you up to the point where like you're codependent on them, where like you just, whatever the case is, you want to hold on to them. Like, if you just do this, I can't do this, because if I do this, my boyfriend is going to leave me. Like, let them leave you. Let them leave you. Like, it's not by force. Do you get? So those are the 4 points. And I feel like we decided to just like, so we have like a mutual mentor.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do here is just basically like share her story. I'm not allowed to say her name, clearly, confidential purposes. But you see that in this story, like all these 4 different points are being highlighted in the story. So basically, this woman came from like, she got married, beautiful lady, very smart, very successful, and all that. But she got married to a very successful man as well. And when she got married to him, you know how some men are, they're like, oh, they just want you to stay at home and not work. And she didn't mind. Like, she's the slave queen, she was enjoying, the whole
being
being at
taken care
home,
of
playing,
and all that.
traveling, all of that. And so the guy basically like would do everything for her. She didn't have to lift a finger, whatever she got it. Oh, thank you, Evan, thank you. Yeah, whatever she got it, But then he now had like a financial like mishap with his business, and things started falling out of hand. And So he started getting cranky. You see that he would start like treating her differently. People will
Yeah.
see that and think, oh, maybe because of the whole financial situation, right? This is why, that's
Mhm.
why he's acting that way. So then
Mhm.
she wasn't really reading too much into it. She just thought, okay, it's fine. He's stressed. Let me support him, you know. But then it
Mhm.
got so bad that like his business totally crashed, and then she had to take over. So during that whole period, like she got a job because she was qualified. She had gone to school. She was very smart and everything.
Yeah.
But she realized that
Interesting.
as things were getting worse, she needed to like come in and step in. And you know, they had 3 kids who were in boarding school in England. Money, they needed to make money, right? So she got a really good job at a top consulting
And
firm,
she became like the
and
breadwinner,
she
basically.
became the
Mhm.
breadwinner of the family. At this
Mhm.
moment, basically, the man now started switching up. She was like, the kind of things he used to do. Like, she was like, did I even know this man? Like, basically, he would start
Mhm.
raising his voice at her in front of like the helpers, the nannies, the security men, insulting her, basically
Mhm.
trying to assume power, regardless of the fact that, like, obviously, he's the man of the house. Like, but he
Yeah,
needed
and
to
there
like
was even
make
like a bit of physical abuse. Remember when she told us that he beat her in front of the staff?
he beat her in front of the
So,
security, but she
mhm.
still stayed because she was staying for her kids. She was just like, it's fine, you know what, like I'm going to be
Mhm.
here with him and all that stuff. But it got so bad. And I think at
Mhm.
some point, like after opening up, because the guy had basically gotten her to the point where all she
Yeah,
had
I agree.
was him, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, his ego was bruised, and he couldn't take the
Mhm.
fact that how can this
Mhm.
woman now be the she, like I don't know. He was for her, whatever she was doing, like the more she tried to work harder,
Mhm.
the more like he got more upset. He'd be like, oh, you're working hard because you want to be successful, yeah, you want to go out there, you
Mhm.
want to get men. The insecurities just kept coming out,
Exactly.
and it got to the point where she couldn't take it anymore, and she had to literally like take her kids and like leave. And
Mhm.
you know, she was just sharing with us her fears. Like it wasn't easy. It was something that she had to keep going back and trying to like, she had to go out, she had to get help, you know. Yeah, he was so jealous. She had to get help, but
Mhm.
finally she was able to break through. But not a lot of women, you know, get to that point where, you know, they can break
Exactly,
through.
exactly.
So
And we're going to delve on that, like, into that later.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, Viv, I think yeah, you covered everything on in terms of
So yeah,
for
so
your
just
follower.
going over that again, like in that story, you would see that there were attributes, there were elements of manipulation, of
Yep.
blaming, of threats. He was always saying,
Mhm.
"I'm going to leave you. You think you find
Mhm.
anyone else?" You know, all these kind of
Mhm.
comments and stuff. And that's
Mhm.
usually the
Mhm.
pattern you see in abusive
Mhm.
men, right?
Mhm.
Like there was
Mhm.
manipulation, threats, there was control. He felt like the minute he didn't have control over her, like
Mhm.
his head literally like sparked, and then he started like showing his
Mhm.
true colors, you know. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's pretty
Mhm.
much, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and I like that, really like break it down this way because especially for like for me, like I have a lot of like younger people looking up to me. So I know like a lot of my, some of my younger, I would say I'll call them cousins or family friends. Some of them are, they're in funny households where they see a lot of things. So it's important for them
Yeah,
at this
that's
young
true.
age to come onto our life and recognize that these are the signs of abuse. This is not healthy. This is not normal. So they don't think that, that is how life should be and all that. So on the back of that, I think that's even delving into, I have another question from a follower of mine, and she says this, Denike, most guys tell me I am wife material and I'm very caring, but all the relationships I have been in always become toxic. How come? Hmm. Well, this is, I think, getting to the root of abuse. So, why does it happen? Okay, so I think there's some comments coming in. So we'll try and take a bit. Maybe we can look at some of them, and then we'll take some later at the end. But basically, talking about
Yeah.
the root of abuse, why does it happen? So I like to look at things in terms of, this is not an economics lesson, but I like to look at things like supply and demand. So basically, I would say that, you have the supply, who is the abuser, and then you have the demand, who is the abused. So we're going to look at the two people and the reasons why this dynamic happens. So when you're looking at the abuser, now a lot of abusers, we already put up
Life
a poll.
materialism.
Um, yeah, I agree. But I mean, for her, that's what it is, right? So anyway, so when you are looking at the abuser, we put up a poll and we said, do you guys think that most abusers
Thank
are,
you.
experience psychological abuse when they were younger? And we found that between both our followers, most people were like, oh, they do actually believe that. And the truth is, yes, you find that happens. Some of them, they may have seen direct or indirect abuse. So it could have been like maybe their father was abusing their mother, or their mother was abusing their father, or they themselves were being abused. and all that. Some of them may have even gone through like a criminal, environment, or sort of like a survival for the fittest. So it could be like manipulation was the game. So in their minds, they don't see life like, oh, just life. They see it as winning and losing. So for them, when the girl is like trying to be funny and she's trying to bring them down, or not bring them down, but she's not under their control.
Yes.
Basically, you would find that they will start to use things like Vivian had mentioned: manipulation, control,
Threats.
blame, threats, anything to see that they are winning in their
Hello.
minds. That's what would happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, but this is not to say that that is an excuse for growing up in a less than conducive environment. You cannot say that because you find that there are guys that went through this kind of thing and they rose above.
Yeah.
So for example, in America, there's a very young guy. Viv, I was telling you about him. His name is Michael Tops. He's 26 and he basically is already the mayor of Stockton, somewhere in California. So at 26 years old, and he grew up in the hood and all of that, he was exposed to that, but he did better for himself. So that doesn't mean, and that's not an excuse for an abuser, but that could be a possible reason. And then my very favorite one, which I love to talk about, and anybody that knows me knows that I love talking about this, is personality. Thank you. Personality disorders. So, for example, person can be a narcissist. It could be, I would explain all, a narcissist. It could be a psychopath. It could be a sociopath. Now, they're all very similar.
Sadist.
Or a sadist, very extreme, very rare, but a sadist. But I feel like a lot of people, from what I've read, for what Vivian has read as well, and from our stories that we've heard, a lot of people encounter narcissists and psychopaths. Those are the common ones. So these are guys like narcissists are people that love themselves, not to love yourself is a good thing, but in a very unhealthy manner, very arrogant manner. And it's almost like their way or the highway. That's just how they see life. Because the moment you disagree with them, you are affecting their personality, their whole being. So that's a big, big problem for them. So that's the narcissist part. Now, psychopaths are two-faced. You hear Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So outside, they're very charming. Everybody loves them. They're very personable. These guys, they're very power hungry. But behind closed doors, who they are, it's another thing.
And the worst part, the worst part here is that they don't show these things to you, because when you look at these people that have been abused, no one will be like, oh, but if you knew this person was like this from the beginning, how come? Do you get? They make you like, they would pretend, they will make you fall in love with them. Sometimes they are amazing actors. So that's why we always say it's always important as well, when you get into a relationship, to take your time. Because I know I have a friend who was dating this guy for the first like few months. This guy was the most amazing thing. Like anything she wanted, she got anything. And then it was after like a few months she started seeing his true side, right? So yeah, that's also something to take into account when you're carry on.
Exactly. Definitely. I mean, it's very common. So that's the abuser. So with the abusers, just to quickly recap, you find that sometimes it's their background, it's their way of viewing things. They don't see the way you see. They see it as life as a winning or a losing thing. And then, some guys have personality disorders, and now this could be caused by genetics. It could also be caused by their environment. So they could be narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths. So we'll put some information out on that later at the end of the live. And then, that's just basically what it is. And then for the abuse, now, this is the person that is experiencing all the emotional abuse and all. You find that women that typically are emotionally abused are people that have, low self-esteem. So today we said we're going to, just for debunker, we said we're going to focus on women today, because we find that statistics say that more women are emotionally abused than men, but there are parts of this that you can pick out for the other sex, and we'll refer to that like closer to
like
the
it
end.
goes both ways.
Exactly. So back to the abused person. So you find that there are people that have low self-esteem, or they have a damaged self-worth, or a distorted thoughts. So basically they just feel like, I deserve it. Like, pain, the way the person is treating me, I'm the one that caused it upon myself. Like, there's no reason that I would expect more. For them, abuse is a normal experience. So, for example, if they would have had multiple partners, like you, that, the person who sent me the story, you said that a lot of times guys say you are caring and you always end up in toxic relationships. So it seems like all your relationships have been toxic. So, it's for you, it might be a normal
like
pattern.
You don't expect anything
really
more.
Like, exactly. Not that it shouldn't really be, shouldn't be, a normal pattern. But that can be what is leading to more abuse. It's like a cycle, just keeps on going and going and going. So this kind of, for example, someone like you now, I don't know your background, but what they find as well, and a lot of like experts have said, is that abused people are people who are codependent. Now, a codependent person, basically, that's somebody who feels loved by giving. So say I'm somebody who gives you money, or I give you my time a lot. Like, I mean, these are normal things that people do in relationships, but it's in an abundance. Like, they just feel like they need to do that. If they don't do that, they don't feel love. So in that case, you might be a codependent. A codependent, could be someone that had alcoholic parents when they were younger. So you find that everybody else was playing in the playground, but you had to be nursing mommy's wounds, or dealing with whatever emotional trauma that she had. You had to grow up really quickly, and all of a sudden,
so you grow up basically with the idea that it was your role to always take care of people. So that way, when the abuser is abusing you, you're making the excuse like, oh, I need to be there for this person. I need to help this person. Yeah, because you see yourself as just the helper, and you don't see yourself as someone who is deserving of love as well and more, right?
Exactly. Even on the back of what you're saying, Viv, is that, codependents are also people, like I had said, you have a mom that is dealing with something. You think you have a savior personality. I can save him. Someone said to me, I mean, it shocked me, but she was like, Denike, I believe I can love the abuse out of him. Like, that is something that happens, and people believe that if I show him a lot of love, he will change. Like, he will actually turn around. So for these people, now I spoke about the narcissist before, so talking about personality disorders and then the types. Now, a codependent attracts, for my follower who asked me this question, codependents tend to attract because God forbid, they tend to attract narcissists. Now, narcissists, aside from being, arrogant and loving themselves and all of that, there are people that, they take. So codependence is giving, narcissist is taking. So they need supply. So when they meet a person like that, it's, a match made in disaster, basically. So that's what, happens with that. And then, you also find that another thing, which is very important, and I think to highlight across a narcissist and a psychopath. Now, a lot of abusive relationships, they don't start physical or emotionally abusive. They are amazing. Like, when you have that Cinderella story, fairy tale, they are amazing. And let me tell you something, like, for a psychopath, these are the steps to know that, okay, I'm dealing with a psychopath. And this is, verified by experts. It's, first of all, it's very intense. It's moving so fast. My guy is telling you that you're my soulmate. Like, before,
let's get married. You're the only one.
That kind of thing. He's like Prince Charming. Everything that you
can. You silly. Anything you want, you got. Like, anything, even when you're wrong, he'll be like, oh, sorry, like, the sweetest person ever. So they make you fall in love with them. They make you feel like, oh, like they're literally like your, like you said, your Prince Charming, your knight in shining armor. Like, they treat you like,
that's how they make you feel that way. So, and then after that, they start to, subtly, they start to tell you, oh, don't do this. I feel you shouldn't work in that company. I just feel he's not a recruiter. He has no idea about the industry, but he just tells you, I feel you shouldn't work in that company. Now, after that, you start to get excessive gifts, as in everything and anything you want to imagine. This guy is giving you. He's love bombing you. It's called love bombing. So where he's like constantly flattering, telling you, baby, you're so beautiful, you're so stunning. The swans cannot even be as, their skin cannot glow as much as yours. He's saying all sorts of things. Like, this guy is giving you, and he's messaging. Those guys that when they are messaging you, like, maybe every 30
every
time.
Minutes, good morning, darling.
And he says he's working, but he's messaging
good morning,
and you're thinking to yourself that, all these
how
guys
does this guy have all this time?
In my life, some girls will be thinking to themselves that finally God has sent the one, he's doing all these things. Let me tell you something, this guy is aware. And one thing that I heard was that narcissists use love as the foundation for abuse. So they need to, narcissists don't show, our abusers, they don't show themselves immediately. They need to have set that foundation so that you trust them and you love them. And then when you do that, that is when all the abuse can start. So that's just talking about that, they get
but you even skip the part how, like, as after they start loving you and they get you to that point where you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing. Oh my God, mom, dad, this is the one. Like 3 months, maybe you guys have not even been together for up to like 1 year or something. Already, this is the one. Yeah,
exactly.
The next thing, then they now start telling you, confusing your mind, poisoning you, making you feel like this may be your childhood best friend. Are you really sure this person is your best friend? They're always the ones that start making you like, basically second out like your close, your close circle, and then they start pushing them, and the more like, then the next thing you're by yourself at that moment, and then you're now their prey, and they can pounce on you because at that moment you depend on them. That's literally like your rock,
Okay.
that's your person, that's your bunny, that's your
Yeah.
Clyde, whatever, like jiggy. And then at
Exactly.
that moment, then they start
Exactly.
breaking you down.
Back to Valerie asked a question, and I think I just want to go back on, so for this particular personality disorder, which is narcissism, so we said these are the steps. There's intensity, he's moving very fast. Then after that, he starts to tell you, you can do this or you cannot do this. He's telling you your should and should not. Then after, he's giving you a lot of gifts, he's love bombing you, which is basically constantly communicating with you, wanting to see you all the time. Then after, he starts to get sensitive, every small thing, oh, I feel you're looking at another guy, I don't think you're interested in me, what kind of nonsense, all those insecurities come to the fore. Then you now start having criticism and superiority, where he thinks he's better than everybody, he knows everything, nobody can talk to him. That's one example. Then after that, you start to isolate. You gradually, your friends, I don't like those girls. They seem jealous
Your
of me.
brother, your sister,
your family, because you seem like you're going to go far in life. I don't think you should be hanging around those people. They say things to manipulate you. So that happens,
and they make it seem like they're being caring as well. So that's the thing. So they don't give you a reason to doubt, because they're making it seem like, oh my God, I'm saying this because of you. Like if it was anybody else, I won't say anything. Or because I love you, like I need you to know. Like, can't you see the way she looks at you? Like, she doesn't want me to be with you. She doesn't. And then they start putting all these things in your head, and before you know, you can even find yourself like fighting your family, which is so retarded, over this person you just met like three weeks or 3 months ago,
and
right?
that's very true.
And then that's when they
very, very true
pounce on you. That's when you start. And at that moment, you're even like so deep in that you're like, after fighting your family, like you can't talk to anyone, because you're like you basically cut them off for this person. Now this person has started showing you their true sides. It's like the fear of even going back to meet them, to tell them, and for them to be like, I when we told you. So you're dealing with a lot of things at that point, right? Because you're basically by yourself. And that's when they can really like,
exactly.
Yeah,
And
they
even
never
based on
take ownership.
off the back of what you were saying about, you cut your family off. There's such a thing called trauma bonding. Now, where you bond by trauma. So initially, like we said, it starts out loving and all of that, and then all these things keep on happening. But because you are so used to, you're so used to the person, and it just becomes a thing of, I can't actually live. Like, I'm used to this trauma. Pain becomes standard, like I had mentioned at the beginning. So, that's an example with the narcissist. Now, moving on from personality disorders, there's this whole thing of religion. So, for example, for the people that are married, I heard a lot of stories that, oh, my mother said that God would disown me if I leave this marriage. Your husband may be beating you, or it could be emotionally abusive. But that mindset is there. It's something that people do with, we live in a very religious society. So that's, another issue. And then there's the whole peer pressure society, thing like, okay, a hell of married versus single, like, where you're a married woman, you might not want to have single friends because your husband encourages, you realize different things and all of that. So basically, it could
their true sides. It's like the fear of even going back to meet them, to tell them, and for them to be like, I want we. So you're dealing with a lot of things at that point, right? Because you're basically by yourself, and that's when they can really like,
exactly.
And they never take ownership.
Off the back of what you were saying about, you cut your family off. There's such a thing called trauma bonding. Now, where you bond by trauma. So initially, like we said, it starts out loving and all of that, and then all these things keep on happening. But because you are so used to, you're so used to the person, and it just becomes a thing of, I can't actually live. Like, I'm used to this trauma. Pain becomes standard, like I had mentioned at the beginning. So, that's an example with the narcissist. Now, moving on from personality disorders, there's this whole thing of religion. So, for example, for the people that are married, I heard a lot of stories that, oh, my mother said that God would disown me if I leave this marriage. Your husband may be beating you, or it could be emotionally abusive. But that mindset is there. It's something that people do with, we live in a very religious society. So that's, another issue. And then there's the whole peer pressure society, thing like, okay, a hell of married versus single, like, where you're a married woman, you might not want to have single friends because your husband encourages, you realize different things and all of that. So basically, it could. Sorry, I got distracted. So basically, it could be a thing of you feeling like, oh, I want to join the married gang, the married gang, that kind of thing. Like, I don't want to be a single anymore. So basically, anything to get a man, I don't mind. I can take it.
Yeah.
And then there are girls that are like shame. Like, I don't want to tell my friends. Maybe they told me in the beginning this guy was not worth it, but I don't want to prove to anyone that they were right. So I'll
They
stay
were right.
in this situation. Then
And
there's
we'll
also
fight
like
it out.
financial aspects of it. You know, I don't have so much money. He's giving me money, or children. You know, I don't want my children to have a broken home. But you don't know that leaving them in that situation is actually broken. So people have that mindset that they don't want to leave that. So I think an important thing to note for the abuser is that relationships that are abusive, they tend to start off, you know, Cinderella story, fairy tale like, but then they just deteriorate over time. Let me just say this: it's nothing to be ashamed of. You can always start again. So shame should not be, you know, a factor in this equation.
Okay, so now let's move on to do abusers change, right? So I had a question from an anonymous person, like we said, and she says, I've been in a relationship for 4 years and he has promised to marry me. I love him, but sometimes it gets a bit too much. He manipulates me, insults me, and even beats me. Will he ever change? My answer for you, girl, is run. Run as far as possible, because I personally do not think abusers change. Everyone can have their own opinion, but I feel like it's something that is like inbuilt. Like, it's something that you've definitely done over the years, something that is like, maybe like you grew up, you know, with that environment. Maybe you grew up in an abusive environment, or you were abused, or once you're an abuser, you're always an abuser. I feel, yes, the only thing that can change anyone is God, but it will take some type of intervention for you to change. And I think when it's in the emotional phase, there's a chance. And I think I didn't hear you talk more on that. But when it gets physical, when he beats you, first he'll slap you. After he slaps you, he'll push you, punch you. You become his punching bag. After that, full on beating. And you don't want to kill yourself on top of anybody. It's really not worth it. You need to leave, because literally, like, you're not married, you're not tied down, there's really nothing, like, he's not even proposed to you yet, you've been dating for 4 years. Run for your life, and thank God that you made it alive, because a lot of people do not. This is actually a very serious matter, where a lot of people end up getting killed in this kind of relationships. So I personally do not think, I don't know what your opinion is on that, but run, just run.
I mean, I think that I think that definitely, like she said, you know, I think she said he slaps her or something. I'm not sure if I got that right.
He beats her.
So he beats her, and that's absolutely, totally, even emotional,
Unacceptable.
It's extremely unacceptable. But for information purposes, and I'm going to share this, and this is not for someone who, I would say, like, if you're in that situation, just leave. But this is for an abuser who wants to change. Now, this is just for the abuser, speaking to the abuser, not that, oh, you know, stay in a relationship.
Not the abused.
But what we're passionate about on here is really just helping people. So whether you are, God forbid, but I mean, whether you're an abuser or you're an abuser, we just believe that, you know, people have hope in general. So one thing I know is that there are corrective programs, and there are also, like, you know, therapy sessions that abusers can go through. And these are the steps that they highlighted. They said, okay, so for an abuser to, you know, make some sort of progress, the person has to be objective. Now, objective meaning that they can see what they are doing. They're not saying, oh, you know, in my mind, you know, I just want to win in life. You know, I'm not abusing her. This is just the way I operate. You have to know what you are doing. Then you need to be responsible. Like, say, okay, you know what, this is what I've done to this person. I know how much of an effect it's having on this person. I want to actually change. So that's being responsible. Now, being humble is knowing that change will not come immediately, and know that you are flawed, and knowing that, you know, you get the required help to doing what you need to do. Then there's self-discipline, which is a lot of people stumble in life. You know, it's not everything that we say we're going to change today, we're going to do it immediately. So, for example, like, if you fall off, talk to people, have accountability partners, therapy sessions, whatever you need, just keep on doing. And then lastly, the motivation. Now, the motivation is, you know, are you motivated as a person in terms of your general purpose? Like, I want to be a good person in life and my legacy. Or is it something that, okay, you know, how, as a role model, you know, when I have kids, how do I want my kids to grow up? Do I want to raise somebody who is an abuser, and do I want to raise maybe another person that is an abused? Like, you get, for example, maybe your son is seeing you emotionally abuse the mother, and he just does that to his girlfriend. Or it's not, I'm not being stereotypical, but you could be your daughter.
It happens.
She just becomes a codependent. So just know that everything you do has repercussions. So those kind of things can motivate abusers, you know, to change. But me, I would say, as for this your what's it called, follower, Have an exit
She
plan.
should
There's
run.
no time.
Yeah.
This is 2020 COVID-19.
And
A lot of things happening.
yeah,
Just have
it's
an
not worth
exit
it.
plan.
It's not worth it. And I feel like as we say, yes, we all say pick up your bag and run, but we also need to bear in mind the fact that this person probably has fallen in love with, and you know, your heart. Sometimes your heart can make you do very stupid things. Sometimes your heart can deceive you and making you think that,
Thank
oh,
you,
maybe
guys.
actually it's my fault, or maybe actually like I was too hard on him, or maybe like you said, I can love the abuse out of him. So this person, like, if you're listening, like, you also need to get some help, and like we'll also like share like numbers. There's healthcare lines in Nigeria. I hope they pick up. But like, then there's also like things. There's like websites. There's books to read,
And then
and
there's
talk to
also
your
even
family.
like
Talk to your family. Like also like talk to your family, and you need to actually also. I think it's one of those things where like when you've been abused, like I understand that like your mental state has been also like abused, your heart, and now your physical as well. So you also need to start relearning a lot of things in your mind, because you probably got into the point where you think it's okay, or there's certain things that are your fault. You need to consciously make that effort to start learning these things and learning like, oh, you are loved, you are worth it, you are, you know, you're good enough. Just filling yourself with encouragement, and like I said, focusing on your family and focusing on people around you that love you. Yeah, Denise.
Exactly. No, I mean, I totally agree with everything Viv has said. And if you want to take it like as a step-by-step thing, so the first thing you can say is, okay, let me set boundaries. Like she said, you know, get someone you can, an accountability partner. So if you know that you are very weak and the
Thanks
person
so
can
much.
just, you know, infiltrate your space anyhow, you can give your sister access to your Instagram, your Snapchat, you know, something like that, so she can see what's going on. Because everybody
And
knows it's
block
not
him.
easy.
That's another thing. You need to block the person off your life. Like, don't even look back. Block them off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we, you know, when we put up the question, should I stay or should I go? Some people are like, I mean, it's not obvious, just go. But we know that how difficult it is for women in this situation, for all the things that we explained to leave it. So we're saying, set boundaries, then change your priorities. Now, rather than, for example, a codependent who is saying that I feel love when I give somebody, you now start to say, okay, you know what? I need to love myself. I need to give myself that love, you know. And then if you need professional help, you know, like Viv had said, we put up stuff after. There are also like apps, for example, Better Help. You can get like online therapists. I know in Nigeria, we're gradually moving towards that whole, you know, therapist thing now, like therapy and all that. But, you know, it's being accepted. It's something we can do. You need to talk to someone. Your mental health is as important as your physical, you know, health. So these are the things that, you know, we need to do. And, but the last thing I think we
Who
talked
says
about, like
blocking them doesn't
exiting.
help?
For some people, it
Then
doesn't work
run
because it just
away.
makes you want the person more. But you know, whatever works for you, just make sure that
Whatever
you are
works for
trying and you
you.
never stop. And then the thing is, we also now, what's it called? We didn't mention. We talked about living an abusive relationship. So now the thing is, how do you avoid even entering any abusive relationship? I would say that the first thing is love yourself. The second thing, know yourself. Now, what are your flaws? What are your strengths? And what are the patterns that you need to unlearn? Like, really know yourself. You know, you can use what we said before about, you know, getting therapy sessions to know who you are. And then, Viv, like I said to you the other day, self-care is not selfish. Guys, we're going to do something very funny right now. But basically, I want you guys to say, you know, after us, I love me. You know, I love me.
I love me.
You know, say I deserve the best. I believe
I
I deserve the
deserve the
best.
best. In fact, I deserve the bestest.
Yes,
Yes.
girl. And
Yes.
then lastly,
Does
I am
anything like
worthy.
that?
And now this is not only for the
I'm
babes out there
worthy.
because we're talking about emotionally abusive, you know,
To the
situations
men as
towards women,
well. To
but also
everyone.
men. I am worthy. I am worthy.
I'm
You are
worthy
worthy.
every day, every day. I feel like one of those things, like obviously the world is hard. Like you go out there, you see things, you get disappointments, but it all comes down to like self-love and loving yourself and like loving,
Yeah.
understanding your worth. You need to understand as a woman, especially because we're focusing on women now. Like it's hard out there, we know. But you are a 10 over 10. Like you are the bomb. Like you cannot let anyone make you feel anything less than that, because it's when you get into that state of vulnerability that people like this, abusers, can have that access to you. You need to understand your worth. That is like the first step. I think that's the first step in avoiding getting into an abusive relationship and also getting out of an abusive relationship, because when you
Agreed.
start understanding your value and your worth, you won't let anyone treat you anything less than that. So it's always something to, you know, to keep in mind, you know. Yeah. But moving on, is there anything else that you want to touch on before we do the
So
test?
because we're going to do a quick Q&A, but I think that we should, you know, let them know, you know, what we told them that they should wait for, which is the emotional abuse test. Yeah, so we're going to go through that. Emotional abuse test. Okay, so Viv, I need to take the first 5, and then
I'll take the first 5. Yeah, you take. So we have 10 questions now for everyone. Stay tuned, listen well, and you just answer to yourself. You don't have to write
again
it here
because we didn't pin the topic. So for those that are just joining, the topic is abusive relationship, emotional abusive relationships. Should I go or should I stay, or should I stay or should I go? Anyone? Yeah. So yeah.
So we'll do like a brief recap, but we want to just go through this test now. So everyone, listen up. You can answer yes or no, and just think about the questions and answer. So, in the emotional abuse test, do you feel afraid of your partner most of the time? So just answer yes or no. Do you avoid certain topics out of fear of angering your partner? Do you feel that you can't do anything right for your partner? Do you believe that you deserve to be hurt or mistreated? Do you wonder if you're the one that is crazy? So yeah, then you can take the next one.
The last one. Okay, so do you feel
thank you, Toma,
emotionally numb or helpless? Does your partner humiliate or yell at you? Say no. It's okay. Does your partner criticize you?
Wait, I didn't get that question. Dennis, can you say that so question?
Does your partner humiliate or yell at you? Then after that, I said, does your partner criticize you and put you down? Then, does your partner treat you so badly that you are embarrassed for your friends or family to see? And then the last one is, does your partner ignore or put down your opinions or accomplishments? So for us, if you answered a lot of yeses to those questions, we say that you are unfortunately in an emotionally abusive relationship. However, we will put the link because this is from the experts. However, the good thing is that, like with everything, once you realize, you are in a situation and you need exactly, realization is the first step to a cure. And so now that like we said, we're going to put all the helplines out there. We're going to put the links out there, access to therapy. And also, on this forum, Viv and I were very confidential. We take confidentiality very seriously. So if you feel you want
always
to talk to
us, send a DM.
It's fine. Like, we're
everything we talk about stays between us. Don't feel like
so long as we're helping someone out. Now, this is not just females, males too. I know guys are like that, but like if you feel like this inspired you, you can reach out to any one of us. So
we'll be more than willing to help you. So we can just do like a brief recap of thank you. We can just do like a brief recap of like everything we've gone through so far. Denix, you want to like start it off, just like maybe like the next 2 minutes, just in case people are coming on now.
Okay, so for everyone, basically what we did was we spoke about how emotional abuse is a very important issue in our society. We also got questions from our followers because we had put on before that if anyone had any questions, we'll do it on here. So we structured the live, in a way where we could just answer the question. So Viv spoke about, emotional abuse, what it is, and the signs. And then I also spoke about the symptoms of that. Then we went on to talk about, someone said, they're really, really caring and they're always in toxic relationships. So that was a
so we spoke, let's talk about the signs. Well, the signs were control, threats, manipulation, gaslighting, blames. So if those were the things that we feel like you should look out for in your relationship, right? And then, continue.
So yeah, we did that. And then I then went to talk about the roots of emotional abuse. So in every relationship, you have two people. So somebody who is perpetrating the abuse and the person who is the victim. So I explained that, an abuser can be somebody that has a personality disorder, could have come from a bad background, but it's not an excuse because people rise above it. And it could just be their way of thinking. So that could be, one thing. But like I said, responsibility should never be absolved. The person is doing what they are doing. Then we spoke about the abused person who could be a codependent. I said a codependent is somebody who gives a lot to feel love. So if I'm giving you a lot of things or I'm spending a lot of time with people and I feel like they're appreciating it, I'm feeling love. Or it could be someone who doesn't. I didn't talk about this actually, but this is important. Daddy issues. Now sometimes people say and I know a lot of people say daddy issues means your dad is not around. Actually, you can have daddy issues if your dad is around, because daddy issues stem from the fact that you don't have access to a father that is showing you that emotional validation. So your dad might be at home all the time, but you just
Or very
don't have that connection with
busy.
him.
Yeah.
So that could be one thing, you know. And
Yeah.
if religion, you know, we live in a very religious society. People are
Yeah.
saying that God said don't leave your husband. So you take a lot of things, or it could be shame, or it could be peer pressure.
Peer
So you know, there are
pressure.
a bunch of things, and like repetitive, you know, cycles. So being in
Yeah.
emotionally abusive relationships
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
you keep on doing
Yeah.
that on and on and on. So
Yeah.
that was that. Then Viv went to, you know, speak about, you know, how can abuse, you know, be stopped. This is something that an abuser can change. Both of us
Yeah.
emphatically, we said no, an abuser cannot change.
Never
However, we
change.
shared information for abusers to help them as people, that, you know, there's certain steps. If they're objective, if they're responsible, if they're humble, if they're
Humble.
self-disciplined, if they have the right motivation, they can change. And
Yeah.
lastly, we talked about having an exit plan. So set your
Yeah. Setting
boundaries, love yourself.
boundaries. Change your priorities. Try new
Mm-hmm.
hobbies. Love yourself.
Exactly.
Love and love yourself. Cannot emphasize that
Exactly.
enough. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
don't feel like, you're hopeless, or don't feel like, oh, if you leave this person, you never find, because you will definitely, there's someone out there for everyone. I personally think there can be more than one person out there for anyone. So just always like, yeah, trust in God, pray a lot, love yourself, and yeah, you'll be fine regardless. You'll
You'll
be
be
fine.
fine. You'll be
Yeah,
fine. If you guys have like any
fine.
questions, I think we can take maybe some questions for maybe just a few minutes.
Before we wrap up.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't see anything from my end for now. Viv, can you see anything?
There's been a lot of comments
Yeah, there have
already,
been
so maybe we
comments,
can
but
like address them.
Honestly, you should. You should. Honestly, you should. Because this thing doesn't just apply to. He says, okay, you guys, I just want to read this out. Someone says, everything mentioned here is what I go through with my girlfriend. Should I run to as a man? Emotional abuse
Run.
happens to men. So
Both
you
ways,
should
both
run.
ways.
You should
Just because we're
run.
not focusing on that today, yeah, doesn't mean that, okay, it's just something that happens to women. It happens to men. Men are human beings as well. And if you're
Of
seeing
course.
these signs, if your girlfriend is being manipulating, if she's always blaming you, if she's always threatening you, then why do you want to be in that relationship? Like, don't you feel
Exactly.
like you deserve love? Don't you feel like you are worthy of love? Like, you are beautifully and wonderfully made by God, and nobody should ever make you feel less than you are. So if you feel these things are an issue, I'm sure you've probably addressed them with her. You've probably spoken to her. If she doesn't want to change, I don't think she can change. I personally don't think an abuser ever changes. I think they can get better if they get help and they can like work on these things. But I feel like if she's treating you this way, like, what are you doing? Like, you could get a girl who could treat you like God says in the Bible, the kind of love that you should get. You could totally get that. So I don't think you should settle. But I don't want to be the reason why you end your relationship. We didn't tell you to end your relationship, but definitely think about it. If you're going through that, you're definitely in an abusive relationship, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. And like we said, self-care is not selfish, you know. Like
Yeah,
we
it's not
said, we don't want to be
selfish.
the reason why you end your relationship, but you should also figure
Yeah.
about, you know, think about yourself. Like,
Think
how do
about
you feel?
yourself.
Because I think there's a stigma out there, and, you know, even from ourselves, that, you know, being single is a problem, is a cost, you know,
It's
some people. And if you
not.
find that you need a relationship, you know, you really need it to survive, then
That's the
there's a
problem.
problem.
That's the
There's a
problem.
problem.
And another thing is, you cannot even love, and that's what people don't understand. You can't give anyone that perfect love if you do not perfectly love yourself. Because what happens here is you're always going to be looking for certain things. There's going to be this void where you're trying to find the missing pieces in your heart from another person. So if the person disappoints you, then you're always going to think, that means this person doesn't love me. And then you keep moving on to the next person and the next person. So you
Thank you,
need to be whole by yourself. Thank you. You need to love yourself fully, and it's only in that state that you can actually even love anyone. So yeah,
Exactly,
guys, let's
exactly.
love
So
ourselves,
you're
and let's leave.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
You're
We hope we're
welcome.
able to like give you good advice. Like,
Yeah.
we're
So
not
we'll put out the
professionals, but we've
helplines
done some
and
research, and
what's it called? Helplines and links to the therapy apps on our stories or anything that we feel that, can help you. And like we said, we're DM away. You can always reach out to us.
DM
Keep
us
your
anytime.
information confidential.
COVID-19 has tied us down, so we're here for you guys. Like, we hope you had, you enjoyed the session. We're gonna wrap up now. Okay.
All right, no problem.
Thank you
guys, thanks for
guys.
listening.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.